La, 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 la. Hello, everybody, and welcome to our Atomic Content webinar where Jessica and I are going to break down what we actually do for our clients here with a real live case study and a real live example of who and what we do here. But we are going to wait a minute for people to go ahead and get in the room. And so Jessica and I really like to talk about stuff that's going on in our lives. And what we settled on today is, what movie did you just recently watch that really was something that you either really enjoyed or was, anything like that? So Jess, what is the movie that you've seen?
Well, my family and I this week were watching dog-related movies. These are all, G-rated family movies. We watched Beethoven from 1992. Love that. But the one I want to mention is A Dog's Purpose from,
Oh,
oh God, is it from 2017? Have you seen that?
I have not.
Oh my gosh. I enjoyed it, but it's sad throughout it. I was like, I can't take this. So that might be maybe the only time that I will watch that movie. But I based on a novel, I thought it was pretty well done.
Hmm. Hey, did you see The Art of Racing in the Rain?
No, I heard
Yeah, so
such good
that's a
things.
unbelievable book. And it's
Yeah.
it's actually from the dog's perspective. It's absolutely fantastic. And they made a movie
Oh,
out of it. So the movie that I watched was called They Cloned Tyrone. And it's this absolutely conspiracy driven thing about the government trying to take over all of these African American communities all over the United States. And it was just brilliant. It was so well done. I didn't even know what was going to happen because it could have gone 20 different ways. And I love unpredictable movies because so many movies are just so freaking predictable. And this one was just, yeah, I was all the way to the end. I was like, oh, okay, super cool. All right. So with that, we got 2 minutes in. We got a couple of people on. Let's go ahead and
yeah.
get rolling, Jess.
Excellent. Okay, I guess it's me. Welcome everybody to the Atomic Content webinar. Today we're going to give you ideas and encourage you to share your expertise more often without having to create way more content. So reclaim your time. All right, here's what's in store. We're going to define content multiplication. We're going to talk about why is it beneficial. We have three major benefits. How do you choose what content to multiply? And then we're going to walk you through our 5-step atomic content method. And then we'll do a Q&A, but please everyone feel welcome to use the chat and ask questions throughout. We can stop and answer them and just be really, casual like that. And when you're typing in the chat, just make sure you have it toggled so that you're chatting to everyone, unless you want to send a message to just us. But sometimes I forget to do that during webinars, and I'm like, oh, I just messaged the host. Okay. All right. So getting into it, what what is this exactly? What is content multiplication? Well, it is the act of turning a long form piece of content that's of high quality, so webinar, blog, long video, podcast, and turning them into smaller pieces of content. We call that atomic content. And I want to focus on the high quality part. High quality is something that is, well, it's higher effort, which we'll get to, but it's authentic. It shows your personality and really stands out, showcases your unique perspective. It absolutely answers what's in it for me, for your audience, and it solves a specific problem for a specific audience. It's really valuable to that specific group of people. And then the higher effort, well, okay. It takes a little bit of work, to execute these pieces, because you are, well, first you're in that planning mode of, what do I create? Why am I creating it? Where does it sit in the funnel? And then you're, maybe if you're on the marketing team, you're interviewing subject matter experts, you're doing your research. If you're the advisor creating it, you're just like pouring your brain, out onto the page. And so it takes a little more. And, as I said, this webinar is all about time saving. And the time saving part comes in because you're going to be creating this high quality, high effort content all the time, but we're helping you get the most out of it so that you can have this consistent online presence without having to create something totally new like this every time. Okay. And I think that'll just, become clearer and clearer as we go. So here's an example. This is okay, what you can do with a podcast episode. You can atomize it into social media posts, including paid ads. You can do blogs, you can do emails. We talk a lot about short form in this webinar, is like that, atomic content, but hey, you can go long form to long form because you might inspire that next piece of high effort, high quality content. For example, if you specialize in helping people navigate divorce and you're interviewing, different experts all year, you might want to turn that into a white paper that, features all of that expertise. So there's so much you can do. Okay, let's keep rolling. Okay, the main benefits of atomizing your content: more exposure. Okay, when you atomize your content, it's like you're creating all these arrows, that point people over to your long form content where they can go just a little bit deeper into getting to know you, into getting into your exact expertise. And really, I mean, the more you're able to show up, the more you're able to get your, get your expertise out there, really, really that plain and simple. Oh, sorry, my screen just changed. One moment.
What just happened?
I don't know.
Huh.
Sorry about that. I think something maybe updated. I'm just gonna. Did
Yeah,
it
just
stop
just
sharing?
close your screen and we can continue with that conversation, or stop sharing and then we'll reshare again.
Yeah.
Maybe
Sorry
you
about
just need
that.
to reset that. Um,
Yeah.
so the other thing about this idea of getting the word out even more is you really do have to be where your ideal audience is with content that they want to consume, right? And so that's why that confetti cannon, or that the atomic content cannon that Jessica showed on that slide a minute ago is so powerful, right? Because oh my gosh, when you can take that high quality, high effort content and chop it up into all sorts of other things, your ultimate goal then is, again, is to drive them to the long form content, because that's where they really get to feel your expertise, the real essence of who you are, as a financial services professional. So, all right, did you get it back?
Yes, I'm gonna share my screen. I think this is gonna be a little bit clunky,
Okay,
so
that's
please
fine. Clunk
bear
away,
with me.
sister.
We're just, real people. Okay, so I'm in Canva, which we love.
There
Okay.
we go.
Yes.
Yay.
Yes. Okay. Thank you so much, everybody. Sorry if you saw like my horrendous, messy home screen on my computer. Pretend you didn't see it. Okay. So we're going on to the second benefit of atomizing your content, is that it's audience focused. And Matt, if you would talk about this, I absolutely love it. You talk about bringing content to people on their own terms, right?
Yeah. So one of the biggest issues that had happened really pre-pandemic was that you forced your clients to show up for seminars or webinars or conference calls when it was convenient for you as the expert. And a content atomization fundamentally changes all of that, right? This is putting that content out in the media that your specific audience really likes to consume when it is convenient for them to consume it, right? And that changed everything, right? And when we talk about, where do you post, or what do you post, or how do you post, those are all things that you have to know about your ideal target market so that you can deliver that stuff. And when you do deliver, when you use the rest of the atomic content method to that specific audience, oh my goodness gracious, everything will change for you. People start listening more. They'll actually start paying closer attention. They'll start interacting with your content because, again, they feel like you're speaking their language. You know what? James just asked a question. Are there particular tools required for creating the bits or pieces that are atomized in the consumers we speak of? Yes, but unfortunately, James, you have to wait. So we're going to go over that in just a minute. Jessica is actually going to take you through a real life case study and show you exactly what we use, and even go through our tools list.
Yeah, thank you. I love that question so much. And adding Matt to oh gosh, I just lost it. It was about helps people pay greater attention to you. This approach. And you know what? There's repetition. built into it, because say you're taking your podcast episode, say just one episode, and you're turning it into all these little pieces of content. So somebody may have already listened to the podcast or not, and then they're seeing it again on
Mhm.
social media. And that repetition, it helps people learn from you, because as an advisor, you're talking about things that you're an expert in, people aren't. So it just takes a few iterations, even when you're, totally jargon free and keeping it simple. I think it takes multiple times for people to grab a hold of your expertise and understand it. And for people to associate you as the expert, you have to keep showing up. If you're specializing in divorce, it's not enough to just show up talking about it once a month. And then the final thing I'll say here is that people are opting in to hear from you. So they're following you on social media, they're on your email list, they want to hear from you. You
Yep.
know, be repetitive, keep showing up. They want to learn from you and they want to get to know you. So just keep giving them those opportunities. Or the third major benefit here with atomic content is you're maximizing new and existing content. Matt, did you want to speak to the new?
I do. So the important thing when you're planning your new content, and Jessica's actually going to show you some of this in just a minute. When you're creating new content, you should be planning for the atomization. And so that's really, really important for you to do that. And I'll just give you a very, very quick example. So let's say you are going ahead and doing a podcast, and when you're organizing the podcast, and we teach this in our Pod Rocket Influence Academy, when you take a look at it, you should have 3 to 5 major talking points. Now, we know that those 3 to 5 major talking points, if those talking points are done well in the content, that long form content that you create, guess what? There are 3 to 5 social media posts right there, right? There's a video burst there, or a video snippet. There's an audio snippet. There's a quote meme. There's a text-based post. All of these sorts of things that you can do from those 5 major points that you have in the new content. Now, Jessica, you're going to talk a little bit about the existing content and what you can do historically with all of the work that you've already put into this high value, high energy content.
Yeah, I think I just want to encourage everyone to look back at the good work you've already done and what can you do to give that work more exposure. Maybe just a rough example, maybe last year you did a webinar for Women's History Month. Why not bring that back? And if you haven't already, turn it into an email campaign, turn it into social media posts. There are just so many opportunities to use what you already have. Okay. So, big question. How do you choose what content to multiply? Okay, Matt, did you want to take this one?
Well, I think we've just highlighted that a little bit already, right? I think your webinar is a perfect
Yeah.
example, right? I think white papers, one of the things, Jessica, that I don't think a lot of people pay attention to is a lot of advisors have written ebooks, they have checklists, they've written an actual physical book. Everybody, that's exactly that high value, high energy, high heart level content that you've already created. And that's exactly what we want you to be able to go back and either from this point forward in the creation of that content in the future, or what you've already created in the past. Man, it's freaking gold, guys. And we're going to talk a lot about gold here in just a minute, but that is the gold. You've already done the work. So I have to say this, Jessica, because I think just bears repeating. I get a lot of resistance. So I'm the salesperson here, right? So everybody who's going to buy our products generally comes through me. And one of the things that I hear from almost every single solitary advisor is, Matt, aren't they going to get tired of me saying the same thing? Nike came out with Just Do It in 1988. In 1980, they've been saying the same damn thing to all of you since 1998, right? I'm sorry, 1988. And so that's the thing, guys. You have to have that level of repetition. You have to continuously tell people over and over again. So if you had that wonderful webinar that you did that Jessica was just talking about, chop that puppy up. We're going to show you how to do it. Chop that puppy up and turn that into even more content to reinforce those messages that, by the way, it's like the advisor's paradox, right? You know so much that you forget that people don't know what's knocking around in your brain skull. This is a great opportunity to pull that thought leadership out of your brain.
Yeah. Yeah. I also think about, what the content you created that you're really proud of, but it just didn't get the traction you
Yeah.
hoped for. Like a white paper, for example. I don't know, Matt. Do some people associate white paper with being like something dry? Because if so, maybe you need to show people it's not.
Yeah,
Like
totally.
go into your white paper, pull out some paragraphs and bullet points, make them really accessible to people on social media, and show them what they're in for. If they go to your entire white paper. Alrighty. Next up, if it's time to create something new, because yeah, we're talking so much about this long form content you already have, and maybe you're not in a place where you have that yet. Maybe you're planning it, or you're going to add to what you're already doing. And this is really just something extra to consider, is when you're thinking about what to create, think about, okay, what would you enjoy? What does your audience want? What do you have the time, passions, and resources to pull off? And a little example about the intersection of these. A little while ago, I was talking to a financial advisor in office hours. He's an advanced member of our PodRocket Influence Academy, so he gets access to these drop-in sessions with our team. And he was talking about a podcast that he's working on launching. And what he had been doing was sending out an email newsletter to his clients, and very text centric. And the feedback he got from clients was that the information was valuable, but they just didn't have time to read it. So he's like, I'm going to start a podcast so that his people can listen to that while they're commuting. And he's still going to send it to them through the newsletter, but it's going, from what he was telling me, it's going to be more like, hey, go listen to my podcast. Maybe there's a short summary of what it's about. And he's so enthusiastic about it. He has his
Yeah.
first 8 episodes planned out. He's rehearsing them in his car on the way to work. It's like, yes, I love that. So just such a good example of some enjoyment already happening, and then doing something that his audience is showing some demand for, that
Yeah.
that medium would really work well for them. Okay. Ooh, all right. Love this
Here we
part.
go.
Yeah, we're getting into the 5-step atomic content method. All right. Here is one of our wonderful clients, Marcia Miller. She's a client of our Managed Influence Acceleration Service. And we are going to have a look at one of her podcast episodes, just as a bit of an example as we walk through this process. She has a really great podcast that helps veterinarians navigate their personal finances. So, really great niche there. Okay, so remember Marcia. And step number 1, find the gold. With gold, you're zooming in on a particular moment from your long form content. And when you're thinking about, okay, well, what do I zoom in on? Consider 2 things. What would give your audience an immediate payoff?
Mm.
They're going to say, watch your short video, get a tip, and think, ooh, I'm already learning from Jane. This is great. So that's number 1, immediate payoff. Number 2, what might entice them to go check out the full, long form content? So again, you're creating that arrow over to learn more about you. Okay. And this is okay, perfect. I'm like getting ahead of myself. I love this. Perfect content formula. This is something that we use with our clients to help them create really compelling podcasts. And it's also something you can use as a bit of a checklist to identify the gold, because here's what happens. Whether people are just a little bit modest, or they're new at creating content, sometimes we can record something, write something, and we wonder, like, is that any good? And it becomes difficult for us to judge that gold. And we start to maybe second guess ourselves a little bit. So I really recommend implementing a checklist that brings a little bit of objectivity into the process, so that you're just going through it and you're looking for these educational moments. Okay, where did I share my 3 tips? Maybe that tip becomes a video. Was there a moment of that was entertaining? One of our clients talked about the Beatles song,
Mhm.
Can't Buy Me Love. And he was going through the lyrics and talking about the relationship between money and happiness. So totally relevant to his audience, just really fun. That would be great for the entertainment quality. And then storytelling could be so many things. Maybe you're telling a story about when you've experienced the same challenges as your audience, and just really, I've been there too, just really connecting with them. And then the call to action, you're helping people take that next step to go, further in their relationship with you. And Matt, I'd say, the sweet spot is when these overlap. I'm kind of talking about them as if you're just checking off like education, entertainment, but it's really, really engaging when you have education and it's entertaining, for example. So you're looking for these categories and you're looking for, the overlap. Is there anything you would add to that, Matt?
Well, you did touch on it, but again, we're going to be repetitive here because we're trying to drive some freaking home points home to all of you guys. So in the gold component, right? With the perfect content formula, especially when you find something entertaining, it generally elicits an emotional response, right? So whether that's a big smile, you laugh, you cry, your heartstrings are tugged, you get angry, you get excited, whatever emotion happens, that's generally gold. That's gold, right? In all of what Jessica just said, there's all sorts of overlapping there. It is entertaining because there's an emotional stimulation component to it. Generally, people see themselves in stories, and then you add, the Venn diagram of all of the stuff with education, which is what all of you do for a living. I mean, 99% of you spend most of your time teaching people how to make wise financial decisions, right? And so that's why that's so important. And I think the illustration that we're about to take you through with Marsha Miller is such a great example of that emotional connection. So Jess, go ahead and take it away.
Yeah, for sure. I'm going to add one more thing. I was reading recently about how video is becoming such a popular and in-demand way for people to enjoy podcasts. And one big driver for people to watch a video of a podcast is they want to see the hosts and the guests' facial expressions
Yep.
and their reactions. So even if you feel like dorky about it, if you're watching the podcast back and you're like having this big reaction, think about that as your gold because people actually they really do want to see that. Just a little note. Okay, let's keep going. So again, we have our client example with Marsha Miller. This is episode 1 of her podcast, Making Hay. And with our clients' first episodes, they're always about talking about who that advisor is. Who am I? Who do I serve? Why did I become an advisor? Why do I love what I do? And what you're looking at here is an episode summary. If we were, actually online scrolling down this page, you would see a play button at the bottom where you can start playing her podcast. Okay, so just a little background. And then here we have a transcript. This is actually, the conversation that took place during this particular episode. You could see where it says Marsha Miller and then Bill Tucker, her co-host. And we've identified some gold here. Marsha Miller's talking about her journey in her industry, and she goes on to say that there's a Babe Ruth saying that it's really hard to beat someone who won't give up. And then she goes on to talk about how this is a philosophy that she extends to her clients. Keep investing, keep going. And then there's so much gold here, okay? Even before that identified part, she's talking about, being a female in the business back when it wasn't cool and just
Mhm.
telling yourself don't quit. So there's so much here, but for our purposes we've identified this little section, and you'll see why in a few moments. You'll see what we created. Okay, a quick word about planning out your goal and also leaving it up to leaving it to be spontaneous as well. What I recommend is that when you are outlining your content, no matter what it is, it doesn't have to be a podcast in this instance, you are going through that content checklist and thinking about education, storytelling, call to action, entertainment, and thinking about, okay, how am I incorporating that into my content, and then what do I want to do with it. So if you're going to share 3 tips, you're thinking, okay, maybe I want to end up having 3 short videos where I'm sharing 1 tip each. Maybe there's a certain statement that resonates with my clients. I want to make sure I say that. So just, yeah, my recommendation is to plant plant that goal ahead of time so you can make sure it comes through in your content. And this will just save you, a bit of heartache. Not to be dramatic, but just so you're not looking back at your content and saying, "Oh, I wish I'd said that." And that'll still happen a little bit. It happens, but it'll happen less when you're planned.
Ooh, I want to add something to that. And we haven't talked about this. So this is the first time anybody will have heard this. So you can add, right? So this is one of the greatest things about creating long form content is so let's say you go ahead and you go through all of your stuff and you got a great interview with somebody and it's 30 minutes long and you're like, "Oh my God, that was fantastic." And then when you're reviewing the content through the transcript, which is what Jessica was just showing there, you realize, "Oh man, I totally forgot to say this," or "Wow, I really want to highlight that." Guess what? You can do that in post production. You totally do that in post production, whether it's audio or video or a blog or whatever. You can actually insert stuff. And by the way, people love that. They absolutely love that when you're humble enough to say, "Gosh, I was so caught up in the interview." That I didn't even think how important what my guest just said. And I want to just make sure that all of you, I'm going to tell you what they say, and then I want you to hear them say it. Guys, that's such a wonderful way to go ahead and enhance your content, which is probably a whole nother webinar that we'll have to do at some point, Jessica, is how to enhance your stuff. But I think that you can, with good planning and good organization, you can even go back and fix some of the stuff you might have missed.
Yeah, yeah, I love that. Matt, did you want to speak to spontaneous too? I just
Oh, yeah,
kind of
yeah,
like
yeah.
explain
Thank you for that.
that.
Yeah, so I'm sorry I got so excited about that other thing. Yeah, I've done many, many interviews, and really the greatest things that can happen with you as a podcast guest or as a podcast host is when something kind of magical happens. Sometimes it happens by design, as Jessica's talking about, and sometimes it happens when it's not by design. And in fact, you're going to find when you start putting this heartfelt content out, this longer form, planned, high energy, high effort content out, you're going to start saying things that you, just like what just happened with us, you haven't said before in the way that you said it. And all of a sudden that creates gold, and that creates long lasting gold too, where you might actually want to change some of the things. I'm going to digress for a moment. So I was talking to one of our clients yesterday, one of our biggest fans of ProudMouth. Specifically, again, he's in our managed influence service, and one of the things that he was really struggling with is making this connection between the his brand for his podcast and his offerings that he has as a professional financial consultant, which is what he is. He works with families of ultra high net worth, and he really helps with something called inclusion, which is actually one of the biggest concerns that people of ultra high net worth have. It's not what's going to happen with my taxes or what's going to happen with my inheritance. It's people want to come into the family. How do we deal with that? And that's what Tim Volk really specializes in. And through our process of me just going back and forth and technically interviewing him, he had this major epiphany because of the way that I asked a question and forced him to kind of look at things in just a little bit askew from where he has. That's spontaneous, and that happens all the time in this high energy, high effort content.
Yeah, I love that. And I so admire people who are able to pick up a little bit of steam and get some ideas by talking things out, like what you're saying, Matt. And I think it's a really special experience for the audience when you're listening or you're watching and you're watching someone like have a revelation
Oh my God, it's
and you
magical.
were part of it.
Yeah.
So, so cool. Okay. Yeah. So I love the advice to lean into that and that these are an and, not an or. Absolutely. Alrighty, we're on to step number 2. We're creating more gold. Okay, I have a question for everyone. Looking at this, what we've identified, what might you create with that? I'm just so curious. Like, what's the first thing that comes to mind? You could put it in the chat. Is it an email? Is it a social media post? Is this becoming like a full blog maybe? Okay, so here's some ideas that we came up with. Again, I'll just go back to it for a second. Just looking at this identified gold here, might create a social media post with a beautiful graphic that has that quote on it that just really catches people's attention and draws them into the post to learn more and go listen to your podcast. And I think if you have a guest and you quote them and put them on a graphic, that's just such a compliment. People love that. And then another idea is to include the quote. Really, I would probably include the graphic again. Put it in in an email. Send it out to people saying, your audience saying, "This is my story. This is why I got into financial advising. This is why I believe what I believe." And you could also use it as a podcast promotional email. So maybe you're giving people a sneak peek of what's inside that episode. And then my last idea out of endless possibilities is again to go long form to long form and put that quote into a white paper, blog, or webinar. Why not
So,
add some
but
personal?
Patricia just dove in right before you switched the slide. She's like, email blast. That's absolutely a great
Yes.
thing to go ahead and create.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. I love that. Yes. Great idea. Okay. And then this next slide is showing what our team did create. Here's the goal that we created. And this is a very much behind the scenes look. What you're looking at here is a Google Doc that contains the copy to three, social media posts for three different platforms: LinkedIn, Instagram, and X. You could see the copy, the call to action, and then at the very bottom, there is the quote that we're referencing. And we're going to send out the replay. So if you want to take more time with this copy, I absolutely encourage you to do that. We'll just keep rolling. So we have our copy, and then we're just going to watch this come together. This next screenshot is from Canva. Tell me if you love Canva, like we sure do. What we have here is a template. And if you use it, you know that you can add in your logos and your colors and really make it your own look. And something that you could also do with Canva is they have a feature that's called, I think it's edit my photo, and then you go in and it's edit background. So you can actually put a photo of yourself on the image. And even if it doesn't feel natural to do that, just go a little outside of your comfort zone. And I encourage you to do it anyway, because people really like to see that human face. It catches attention because that's just how we're wired. And it's a great way to, again, show a little heart and soul, especially if the posts are coming from a company account. It allows people to see, it allows your audience to see the people behind the business. And again, it's a great way to get your face out there if you're not yet doing video or posting photos. Okay, so Canva graphic right there. Next up, we're going to see it come together because we are sharing the gold. Okay, here it is on LinkedIn. We have our copy and we have our quote graphic all together. And I just want to harp on share. The word share the gold. I try not to let perfectionism hold you back. If you're worried about, oh, I don't know if this is ready, I don't know if people are going to like it. If you've created the post with the intentions to solve your audience's problems and answer what's in it for me, put it out there. We're going to get to this, but you can put it out there again later and tweak it if you want to. It's not like this is, the only chance you're going to have to share this particular post. So I just want to encourage you. Okay, number 4, Matt. Interact with the gold. I know you love this one. Did you want to take this away?
Yeah, sorry. James just sent a question here. I was going to answer. Yeah. So, okay. So yes, step one is making sure that you're sharing the gold. But what a lot of people don't realize, and I don't know why this is. I do know why. A lot of you are terrified of compliance, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But you don't interact with anything. So basically, what you're doing is you're screaming into the void like everybody else is. And by the way, that doesn't please the algorithms. So your posts just flat out don't show up, right? And that's why what you had said and what Patricia had just shared about taking content like this and sending it to your email list. We know the probability of that being opened is very, very, very high, right?
Right.
But you have to interact with the gold. And if you look at what Marcia did here, this is just absolutely brilliant. So Stephanie, who by the way is a veterinarian, a DVM, she responded with something super easy like, we got this. You could say, thank you very much. I agree. The very simple messages that, by the way, will fly through compliance, and your archiving softwares aren't going to flag any of that because you're not providing investment advice. It's not a testimonial or an endorsement. It's just you interacting with the post. So yes, absolutely. That's so important, guys. If you look at the stuff that we post, and I know you all can't see this on the back end, but if we have 10 or more comments on anything that we post here at ProudMouth, we have like a 10 times number of how many impressions that gets on social media, especially on LinkedIn. And I know a lot of you live on LinkedIn like I do. But anyway, I hope that answers your question. Now I need to respond to James here.
No, that's great. Yeah, posting, it's the start of the conversation, right? And one of the reasons it's part of this atomic content method is because it can inspire more content. You might have people commenting and asking you questions, maybe asking for a little bit of clarity or your opinion. And, that's an opportunity to create, maybe write a post, shoot a quick video that answers that question, and you can tag that person. People love being tagged and stuff. If it's relevant to them, like that shout out, people like it. That's social media. And another thing you can do on that note is in this post, you can have two, I don't know if I'd call them two calls to action, but you can direct people to your podcast. But then you could also ask a question, maybe in the PS line at the very bottom. You might, just thinking about this gold, you might ask something specific, like what's a mantra that helped you early on in your career, and something that's easy for people to answer. And they're going to comment. And then what you can do is take all of their responses and create another post where you're sharing their mantras and tagging them. Oh, people like it.
They
I
really
think that's
do.
just such a fun way to start co-creating with your audience too. I mean, that's when social media gets really fun, I think. Okay. So interacting with the gold. Now, the final step, if you can believe it, is revisiting the gold. Little bit of repetition. Okay. So these are what you're seeing now are some examples of reasons why you might bring this content back, publish it again. So you could think about national days. In Marsha's case, World Veterinary Day. I mean, turn it into the entire month, and feature your biggest hits from your podcast. And the conversation like Marsha's, if you think about Women's History Month coming up, that would be a great feature, especially if you've had several conversations like that. Um, Baseball season because of Babe Ruth. Just think about what's going on in the world and what the connection is to your content. And then this third point here, when you start collecting these little gold nuggets, these quotes, you end up with a really great bank of talking points. So that if you're ever going to create some curated content, like our top episodes of the year, you can use all of those quotes as talking points and moments to zoom in on during that episode. I speak from experience when I say that that's extremely, extremely helpful from a prep standpoint. And then you might also reshare this episode of Marsha's, the episode or the post, if you have an increase in subscribers. Because remember, episode 1 is that introduction post. So there's always time, or you can always come back and say, hey everybody, just introducing myself, because you're always going to have new people who don't quite know you. So there's an opportunity there. And then you could also use this episode in your funnels. Maybe when someone books a discovery call, you're going to direct them to this episode first.
So Patricia just said, this is what I struggle with. I don't know how to incorporate with the old content with the new content. And so one of the things that I had said here was it just, I'm just paraphrasing something that you said, is like the greatest hits, right? You even said that back with the previous slide where, Marsha could have said, hey, what is the mantra that really gets you going in the morning? And then taking that whole post and turning that into new stuff. But one of the other things that I absolutely love is greatest hits, right? We do that here at ProudMouth. Jessica, you help us build those greatest hits posts, right? The other thing too is also saying these are the most popular posts, and then explaining why you think they're the most popular posts really shows that you're listening to your audience, number one. And two, if they're the most interacted posts, there's a reason for that. And you need to lean into that and realize that the algorithms are going to tell you what people actually want from you. And you should also that's just something you need to keep mindful.
Yeah, Matt, what do you think about the idea of resharing maybe a post that's centered on an opinion? And if you've changed your perspective on it, maybe you're
Well,
resharing that saying, I used to believe this. And
so I love that. And actually what we've found sociologically is that actually is a way to build massive trust very quickly. It's because it also shows that you are consistently learning and evolving as a human being. And if you allow people to see that evolution, they feel like they've been on that journey with you, and that actually deepens the relationship with you. There are wonderful studies out there from a sociological standpoint that really proves that point. Sorry, that was
yeah,
really nerdy.
I liked it. It was good. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to flip to the next one. All right, so we wrapped up the method, and going back to James' question from the beginning, right, about what tools we use. here's what the team uses at ProudMouth to atomize content. So first we have MindMeister, and that's a really great tool for creating mind maps. If you like to think kind of in clusters and branches, you could use that to create the outlines for your long form content or your short form. And then for say recording a podcast, Zoom, editing the podcast descript, so the transcript that you saw earlier from Marshall Miller, Bill Tucker, that was from Descript. And then Blueberry for podcast syndication. And then Headliner is what we use to take a long video and cut it up into shorter pieces for social media or, say landing pages, anywhere where you need a short video, and you can add your captions, you can add graphics. It's great. And then Sendable is a social media management tool. You can use it to schedule your posts, but there's so much more. I highly recommend following up on your data and seeing which posts are people enjoying, because that's another big indicator for what to repeat. Give the people what they like. And then the last one here is Canva, and that's what we use to create the graphics like the one you saw earlier. Next, Matt, we have the bonus idea, but maybe we'll save that.
Yeah, we'll save that
Or
till the end.
yeah.
Yeah. So, dude, do we have this many slides left? Oh, okay. I was like, wow, man, we still have a lot. We don't have that much ground to cover. All right, everybody, we're going to go ahead and just talk to you very quickly. We've already put a couple of the links into the chat. So I just want to talk to you guys very, very quickly about ways that we can help you outside of just these webinars. The first one is actually a bonus one, which is just follow us on social. If you aren't following a ProudMouth on LinkedIn specifically, or me or Kirk or Jessica, please do, because we are constantly sharing these sorts of content atomization examples and ideas for totally 100% free, that you can go ahead and find out more about who we are and what we do. Because you got onto this webinar, we're going to be able to email you. We don't do that too much, but we will provide you with really good stuff. We've got this great newsletter that goes out. I know everybody says that, but ours is actually good. And it does have actionable things in it. But the other way that we can help you is the PodRocket Influence Academy. So please, 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 please understand that right now you can join for free. It is not going to be free forever. It is still free right now. All you have to go is to podrocketacademy.com, which is right here. Just click on that, shoot it with your phone. I don't know if you had AT&T. I don't know if anybody knows this, but AT&T in the States was entirely down. The entire cell phone network was down. I didn't get my cell phone reception back until 1 o'clock today. So anyway, that doesn't matter anymore. Just go ahead and click on this and go ahead and join for free. Or what you can do is you can go ahead and you can have us do this for you. So we literally have done this for hundreds of advisors, 8,000 episodes, about 80,000 social media posts that we've created over the last 7 years, entirely compliant friendly, and you can outsource this to our team of experts, which is actually where Jessica started in our company. She was one of the people who helped you create all of this content, and you can go ahead and do that, and you can go ahead and get time on my calendar. All you have to do is scan this QR code. That will get you directly on my calendar, and I'm more than happy to talk to you about what that is, how it works. That is not what this webinar is about. We just really wanted to show you all what the content atomization method is, because here's the deal. You can do this yourself. You really can. It does take time. It does take effort. It does take planning. But if you follow those 5 steps, find the gold, create the gold, share the gold, interact with the gold, and rinse, lather, and repeat, everything is going to change for your content strategy. So what is the bonus idea?
Ooh, the bonus idea is it goes out to the people in particular who are not quite ready to do video
Mm.
or create graphics. What you can do is go through your long form content, whether it's a blog or you have the transcript from your podcast or video, and find those main takeaways. Look for spots, especially where you're sharing a unique perspective, something that's not Googleable. They can only hear it from you. Grab all that gold, we'll say, all those key takeaways, and put that into an email or a text only
Mm.
post. You can have an introduction that states the problem that your content solves. And then here are, for example, the 5 major takeaways. List them in point form, really skimmable and inviting to read. And then have an ending that maybe it's self-contained, it's just closed off, as in it doesn't direct people to your content. It could ask them a question, or you could direct people to your long form content to learn more. So yeah, go through and find those key takeaways and give people an immediate payoff, for reading that post. That's my
Well,
bonus.
we're going to see if anybody has any questions. So I just put
Yeah.
it in the chat if anybody has any questions. I'm going to give another bonus idea for those of you who
Mm,
stayed all the way to the end. One of the greatest ways for you to create any sort of content is actually looking at what we refer to and is actually in Google. It's called special days calendars. And you can create evergreen, magnificent content from like National Hot Dog Day, or it's Donut Appreciation Day, or Teacher Appreciation Day. Oh my goodness gracious. It is so powerful for you to be able to use stuff like that, because I want everybody to understand it doesn't always have to be about financial planning. And in fact, we don't want it to always be about financial planning. What we want it to do is to really bring your personality out. That's why Jessica and I at the top of the show today, we're talking about what movies we saw, because maybe you had a connection there. You're like, oh, I love that movie. I'm a dog person, right? See, now we are starting to see the humanness behind the who we are professionally, and that makes us more approachable. And that's such a wonderful way for you to build relationships with people. Jessica's a huge dog person. She's rescued her dog, and so now you all know that she's a dog person. And so if you ever wanted to initiate a conversation with her, that's a great way to do that. I love movies. I'm a crazy movie person. I see so many movies all the time. It's just my wonderful escape. And so if you ever want to talk movies, I would love to have that conversation. And that also begets great content, right? It's just such a wonderful way for you to show the humanness. So don't always think that it has to be the five, reasons to do a Roth conversion, or all the five tax tips, for protecting your taxes, blah, 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 whatever. No, talk about the fact that, you went out and ate nachos at a great restaurant and you absolutely loved it. And does anybody want to go get nachos with you? That's the sort of, remember, people want to know who you are. They want to know behind the professional. And please, please take the time to do that.
Yay.
All
So
right,
good. So
everybody.
true.
Well, so please, if you have not connected with us on LinkedIn, please do. If you want to schedule time on me, the link is in the chat. If you want to join the PodRocket Influence Academy, just go to podrocketinfluenceacademy.com and you can go ahead and join. But we will hopefully see you guys on more webinars in the future. We've got a couple more in the queue that I'm not going to tell you about because you just have to pay attention. But for Jessica and all of us here at ProudMouth, we'll see you on the other side of the mic very soon.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.